that this special committee, working committee, can find this, can probably find a solution. But it's going to be very difficult because of the two directions that have been taken by the two initiatives. In my case, for example, I am against the abolition of the SK. We have a very good experience in my city, in my district. They've been very productive, very supportive of the barangay. They've shown maturity. In fact, many of our SK leaders in the past eventually became very good barangay leaders. In fact, many of them are working in the present. So I cannot see how we can resolve these conflicts, Mr. Chairman. That is my humble opinion. Perhaps my colleague, Congressman Apostol, can suggest how this can be resolved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Congressman Apostol.
Mr. Chairman, also that we need a task force because there are bills which are not of the same tenure or tune. That's why a small group will have to sit down and study. After they have studied it, I think they can come up with a compromise draft. One is abolition, the other one is reformation. That can be something of the draft.
Mr. Chairman, may I continue? Mr. Chairman, the only possibility that I can see here, because abolition is absolute, there is no way that you can reform something that has been abolished. No way that, because it will be non-existent when abolished. On the other hand, non-abolition, it opens so many possibilities for reform, for strengthening. Unless the proponents of abolition would yield and say we are withdrawing all our proposals for abolition, and we are now in favor of reform and strengthening, then that is the only way that I think there can be a resolution of the conflict. In my mind, that is the only way. If the proponents of abolition would say we are withdrawing our proposal, then we can find something creative. But abolition, if abolition would remain on the table, there is no way that we can compromise the two, Mr. Chairman.
That is something that can be worked out in the technical working group.
Yeah, but if abolition stays, then the only possibility is abolition would remain. I cannot see how the two can be compromised without abolition being withdrawn from the table.
Congressman Villaforte, after that, Congressman Madanos.
You know, I would like to follow the thinking of Congressman Golez. Such that in order to approve the motion of Congressman Apostol, I think the mandate of the committee to the task force should not only be to go into one direction. I would like the task force to consider at least 3 options that must be recommended to the mother committee eventually. The task force will consider the concept of abolition. For example, but what is to be abolished? Is it only the Sangguniang Kabataan or the Kabataan representative per se? No? I am against the abolition of the Kabataan representation. But how the representation will be made must be explored and broken into. For example, one option is that if the Kabataan, Sangguniang Kabataan is to be abolished as one option, but there should be an election still of the Kabataan representative in the barangay. Now, that is, but the pros and cons, the merits and the demerits of any proposal is the mandate of the committee. No? The other one is when we speak of strengthening, you know, the elements of strengthening must be defined by the committee because there are various aspects of strengthening the Kabataan. I am proposing, in fact, if I become a member of the technical working group, is that we should start of strengthening and reforming the so-called National Youth Commission, you know, with the budget an appropriate budget. Now, the present budget, unfortunately, for example, is that a percentage of the kabataan income at the barangay level is supposed to be remitted to the National Youth Commission. But I should think that that should be made in any reform proposal mandated to be an automatic deduction to the ERA component of the kabataan. Diba? Provided that the national government should have a counterpart. Otherwise, it will not be adequate anyway. So strengthening should cover, starting from the representation at the national level, going down to the provincial, city, municipal, and the other aspect of the task force work should be to determine exactly how do we redefine, we consider kabataan or youth. You know, the present representation is from 15 to 18. There has been some legal problems in connection with that because under the civil code, the legal capacity to contract, to enter into transactions must only be given under the code unless revised and amended to those 18 and above. Okay? The other consideration is that with the emergence of automation in elections, no, it will be very difficult and more expensive to have a separate list of voters, no, just to elect the kabataan representatives. So I am recommending, but nobody is bound in my recommendation as of this day, is that after we define who can be candidates in a kabataan election, at what age level, the next question is who should elect them? Should they be elected only by the kabataan sector or by the entire population of a barangay or of a municipality or city? Because even my own thinking is that even all the registered voters, irrespective of age, from 18 and above, should be allowed to elect their youth representation. But the candidates will be exclusive to a particular age, as distinguished from those who will vote. Now, these are just mere suggestions at this point in time, but part of the reconciliation and harmonization of the competing and conflicting proposals as suggested by Congressman Apostol and as being modified by Congressman Golez. Let us explore all of these alternatives in the matrix form, according categories of etc., and then submit a recommendation, rejecting this, modifying this, or recommending approval of this item, diba? And let the Mother Committee in the end decide which of the options should be considered, rejected, or further modified. So I would like to redefine, Mr. Chairman, the definition of the mandate of the task force, of this technical work group, to accommodate the suggestion of Congressman Golez, as well as my own suggestions. So that instead of working on a hard and fast rule of how it should be, abolish, no abolish, etc., or strengthen or whatever, all those options must be defined by the task force and then submitted back to the committee before they even consider the merits and demerits of each. But that is only intended to facilitate discussion, consideration, and final approval or rejection.
Thank you. Congressman Manalas is recognized. After that, Congressman Golez. Then, Congressman Gurigon.
Mr. Chairman, this is with regard to the motion to consolidate. And taking note, of course, the wise advice. There was a motion.
Task force organized the task force to draft the substitute bill.
Yeah, that was the. This is a motion for.
Yes, that is a motion.
It's a motion. I'm going to comment on that one. Considering also the comments made by our honorable colleague, Congressman Golez. I think I would just suggest that to be able to give way to both, I think we should, there are actually 5 bills in the agenda for reform and strengthening. And there are 7 bills with regard to abolition of the Sangguniang Kabataan. And I think we already have here the matrix of all these bills. So I would that probably to put the two together, that we should have two, instead of only have one, two substitute bills, one for abolition and the other one for strengthening, because the comment of Congressman Golez is correct, because you cannot consolidate diametrically opposing. So effectively there will be two, and then once there are substitute bills, then we tackle them one after another. But at least step by step, consolidate first. And if there is a third, as suggested by Congressman Villafuerte, then we should. But I agree that you cannot consolidate diametrically. But we still have to consolidate the light bills in line on the matrix with the it will not be very difficult.
Mr. Chairman,
Congressman Gonigondo.
I just wanted to add, Mr. Chairman.
I have recognized already Congressman Gonigondo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I speak as an author of one of the bills for the abolition of the SK. And then when we talk about abolition, I would like to clarify that, Mr. Chairman, it is prospective, meaning those who are incumbent members of the Sangguniang Kabataan now will not be affected. It's just that in the next coming election, there will be no more SK elections. Secondly, we are talking about 4 billion pesos here, because that is the aggregate amount that is given by the national government for the operations of all SKs in the entire archipelago. We firmly believe that 4 billion pesos can be spent in a more in other priority areas of our national nation-building drive and effort. Thirdly, we firmly believe that the age of emancipation should be the minimum age that will be the starting point for a young man or woman to participate in partisan political activity. And in this light, Mr. Chairman, I would like to put on record that the Commission on Elections has already submitted its position on the bills pending here in this committee, and the Commission on Elections is for abolition of the SK. We would also like to put on record, Mr. Chairman, and for the information of the members of this committee, that the League of Governors is also for abolition. So the drive and the campaign for the abolition of the SK in the coming election is getting stronger. Now, we agree with the proposal of the Honorable Apostol that we should create a small group of members that can fine-tune and study in an in-depth manner the possible options that the committee can agree upon. And with that, I move that we create a technical working group that can study all of these options and submit, and that report would be submitted to the committee for final disposition.
There's already a motion.
Is a task force the same as a technical working group, Mr. Chairman? Oh, because all I know is the task forces are for police enforcement personnel. I don't know about the committee coming up with a task force.
Wala na, irilibat na isa.
Anyway, thank you very much. Chairman, Congressman Golez is recognized after that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, on advice by a very wise member of the committee, I understand that we can have a compromise which would prevent the abolition of the SK. Because otherwise, I'd like to reiterate, there is no way that we can have a compromise bill if the abolition would remain on the table. Because abolition is absolute. How can you compromise? How can you fine-tune abolition? There's only one way of abolishing something, and that is to abolish. On the other hand, there are many ways, a million ways, Mr. Chairman, to reform. There are a billion ways to strengthen. There are, well, maybe the League of Governors have their own idea, but we still have to listen to the cities, to the barangay officials. As I said, in my city, we have no problem. We are very happy with our setup, with the participation of the SK in my city. Now, on the matter of 18 years old, let us remember, Emilio Jacinto joined the Katipunan at the age of 18 and died at the age of 22. Gregorio del Pilar joined the Katipunan at the age of 18. In other words, if you look back at the history, that kind of age is an age that have been given so much responsibility for the development and the defense of our country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Congressman Villa.